Hello and welcome to Tarmac. I'm Dave.
I'm Matthew, and today we've got a special guest of honor actually, because this badge is Ford's longest running nameplate. Yes, it is the Ford Mustang, but this has got a bit of a twist to it.
That's right, it's the Mach-E, the Mustang that puts the E in yeehaw. Come, let's take a look at this. Now, most of you, or many of you, would have seen the Mach-E, and also many of you will know the history behind the Mustang. But actually, stay tuned, because Matthew's got some tips and stuff that really will enlighten you as to what's gone on with the nameplate. But I don't want to steal his thunder. Anyway, we finally got the Mustang Mach-E here in New Zealand, and it's long awaited, but certainly well worth the wait. And we've managed to get our hands on the GT. So this is the top of the line, and actually it's a thrill a minute, which is why I said it's a yee-haw. But actually, looking around it, if you look around the front here, you've got directional indicators along here with some really sharp LED headlights. You've also got, when you're looking around the front here, the grille, being the GT, is more closed off and less body colored than the rest of the range. So it really does make it stand out from where it is in the lineup. And also you've got down here a front spoiler, and also these vents here will open up and close just to make sure there's plenty of airflow going through to cool the battery. The other thing is, under here is 81 litres of trunk space, or frunk space, sorry, is what they call it. And it's also, because it's got a little hole in the bottom, or it is drainable, you can fill it with ice and the party goes on wherever you are. So you've got a Mach-E that just is the life and soul of the party. Okay, let's get the car color out of the way to start off with. This is what they call cyber orange. It's one of the GT only colors, and I love it. I just think it's one of those sort of oranges that just stands out so well wherever you happen to be. And if you're looking for something that's going to attract attention by the police, or also by whatever it is, this is the one. Looking around the rest of it, in my opinion, if you squint a bit and actually take the top half, it looks just like a Mustang. So it's got a bulbous rear end, it's got all those sort of curves and shapes that make it look like a Mustang, but then its size is just that little bit different. It's 4.7 meters in length, so it's slightly shorter, and 1.6 meters in height, so it's not exactly your Mustang-y sort of height that you don't have to get into, but then you do have some back seats that Matthew will talk about in a while. Up front you've got the wheels here, actually all four, luckily that, and they're 20 inches, and also Brembo brakes behind there, and also some Pirelli rubber, so making sure you've got plenty of grip. And actually there's a little bit less grip on the rear, and I'll see if I can show you that in a while. Charging point is here. You've got some contrasting black mirror caps, obviously a little bit more about your Mach-E X's and things like that, but I love the way the contrast between the orange on the black up the top here, and also along the sills here, that gives it that, although it's a relatively big SUV, gives it that shorter sort of look. And the other big thing to point out, the E-latch, there's no such thing as door handles anymore, so you just push here and open it comes. How cool is that? And also, you see, it's a little bit more streamlined, so this has actually got a drag coefficient of 0.30, which is not bad. What we've got at the rear here is a roofline spoiler, obviously a wiper thing that makes sure that the windscreen back here is good. But the big thing I want to point out, for those of you that do low Mustangs, look at these tri-tail lights here, which are awesome. And also, if you look again, the directional indicators, so actually that turns these red things to orange, which is just like the color here. Looking up under the boot here, it's got a kicker tailgate that opens up to 402 litres of luggage space, that actually, when you drop the seats down, goes up to about 800 and something litres. And also round the bottom here, you'll notice there's a rear diffuser, there's your tail or your reversing light, and your twin exhaust. No, there's no exhaust, is there? Let me just show you what powers this. Open the flap here, and I love the fact that it's got a little Mustang thing that says horsepower. It's just very, very funny. Anyway, this chargeable bit here goes to a battery underneath, which is a 98.7 kilowatt hour battery, and that's going to give you 490 kilometers of range if you don't treat it like an animal, which you are going to anyway. That in turn is attached to two motors with a rear wheel bias, which is awesome, which gives you 358 kilowatts of power and 860 newton meters of torque. That is a ton of torque, and it is so much fun to play with. 0 to 100, get this, 3.7 seconds in an SUV that just, honestly, I know the Mustang's good and the V8 is great, and that gives you around about 5 seconds. This just knocks the spots off of it in orange style. Anyway, thinking of things that are actually quite quick and could possibly beat me in a road race, Matthew's inside and he'll show you what's going on there.
Yep, I'm pretty sure I'll back myself to beat Dave in a running race. And for those who are feeling sporty and feel like a run, this Mustang Mach-E GT certainly encourages some more dynamic driving and more dynamic personalities, and that starts right from the seats in here, because they are sort of at these wide wing backs that really cover your shoulder, decent sized bolsters that keep you in place and make this feel like a performance car as opposed to just a regular electric car or even an SUV. This is a proper Mustang in that sense, but we'll get to the performance bits later on. Speaking of the seats, now this Mustang Mach-E actually has 7 airbags, and one of them is extremely important and a new addition to Ford's lineup of safety, because it's an airbag in between, a pillow airbag as they call it, in between the driver and passenger, which in the event of a crash inflates so that you don't clash your heads together. So a bit of smart thinking there from Ford on the safety side of things. Quite ingenious actually. It is a very cold day. I'm not sure if you can see me shivering or my teeth chattering or whatever. So it's just as handy that these seats are heated to 3 levels as well as ventilated, although we don't need that in the winter. Another thing that especially our cameraman is a massive fan of is the fact that you have a heated steering wheel as well. So nice to keep your mitts warm during the winter. Speaking of keeping things, well, storage spaces are really aplenty in the interior of this Mach-E GT. So you've got cavernous sized door bins, including there's a really unique little slot at the back of the door bins, which are quite hard to access with decent sized hands, should I say. So I guess whatever goes in there is probably lost forever in a certain sense. Looking down the middle, you've got your 2 cup holders. You've got actually space for 2 phones on the wireless charging pad here, neatly arranged too. You've got a floating center console, so there's space underneath there. You've got some space underneath here as well. And then in terms of charging, you've got your 12-volt socket down here. You've got 2 USB chargers there, one C and one A. And then the rest of this center console bit here is quite simple actually. You've got your hazard lights, your parking brake, and then of course your gear selector. And that's about it really. They have kept the complications to a minimum here because of course everything is on that infotainment screen. So let's take a look at that. It really sort of dominates the dashboard experience on this Mustang Mach-E. And well, its size, it's actually 15.5 inches, which would make it massive in any car in particular, and I guess in a way even more so because of this floating sort of effect that it's got on the dash of this Mustang Mach-E GT. Now, a key thing about this screen is that the audio output is through a 10-speaker Bang & Olufsen audio system, which includes a soundbar that goes all across the dash here and is actually award-winning in its design. So quite cool from that sense. Going back to the screen, now this is Ford's Sync 4A system, which is something you would have seen in our reviews of the Ranger more recently, where the layout is actually, you have this dominant screen here, which is the sort of option you've selected, as well as down the bottom here a bar with some shortcuts, and then below that you've got air conditioning controls which are permanently there. So it makes it really handy for changing the temperature or turning on your seat heaters and ventilators. It's all there when you need it to be. What's important to note is actually this knob will change the volume in this setting, as you can see down the middle there. But if I were to play around with the air conditioning, you can actually see that I can change the temperature as well using this same knob. So it's quite intuitive in that sense there. Now, the really unique screen part of this screen is, of course, this trip information screen here, which tells you actually where your energy has been used on your drive. So you take a look at that. It shows you a trip as well as a time counter and then an average efficiency. And we have been averaging something around 28 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks while driving, which is not too far from the claimed efficiency of 25 kilowatt hours per 100 Ks. Below that, you actually have a bar that is divided according to these 4 colors here, which is of course the climate use, your driving, accessories, and then exterior temperature. Your driving as well, it shows you the use there in terms of your acceleration, deacceleration, and speed, and this obviously changes according to your driving dynamics, which Dave has recently had it in untamed mode, so you can imagine what this looks like in that driving mode, with Dave behind the wheel, I might add. Going back to this screen here, now your 2 key menus are the 2 up the top here. You press home and you're presented with a drop down of all these icons. Obviously, to note is the connectivity settings. You've got your phone there, Bluetooth connectivity, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, and of course your navigation built in as well. But the other cool thing here is the sketch function, which if you press that, you can go crazy as if it's the late 90s and you're using Microsoft Paint. So take a look at that. It opens up a sketch function and you can draw whatever you want, including a horse. But I actually did fail my art class when I was a kid, so I'm not going to demonstrate any of my drawing skills on here. Going back here to the second option, well, you press that and it drops down a whole bunch of settings for the car. Starting off with the controls, you can see here the 3 different modes. Untamed obviously is the one which is really the pure Mustang feeling that you would get even in an electric car. And I do recommend putting this propulsion sound on because it does add to the driving experience rather than make you feel nauseous or, you know, like you're in some sort of fake spaceship. Is worth putting on there. The other thing is 1 pedal drive. You can turn that on from here if you want to use the accelerator just to adjust your sort of speed and use that regen function there. Now, looking further down here, the other key things are of course your driver assistance. It has an extensive list of safety aids, as you can see here. Adaptive cruise, of course, lane keep system, your pre-collision assist, rear view camera delay, blind spot indicator system, cross traffic alert, driver alert. It's got the whole suite of them. Go down to vehicle there and you'll actually see heaps more options in terms of things like the door locks and the remote start, the power lift gate. You can adjust so much of stuff on this car to your custom self, and I think the key will actually allow you to have 2 or 3 unique driver profiles, so there is that option too. And head down to general there, and this is where you have some more customization options in terms of the screen, so both your driver's display as well as your clock there. And then of course the ambient lighting, which we have got it set in orange to match that lovely cyber orange color on the outside of the car. Now, another thing that I want to bring up here is actually back to the controls menu. You do have the option of calm screen, which is especially handy at night when you don't want all these bright lights and options and things distracting you. Just press calm screen and voila, it just takes everything away, simplifies it so that you have just the air conditioning controls there. And as pointed out by Harry, this little graphic here actually is inspired by the Mustang Mach-E models, where the panel is the same color as the body and you just have that outline there of the grille just to give it that sporty effect. So quite cool, and you simply get rid of it by swiping up and you're back to the screen there. Now, I really like the way Ford have integrated this 10.2-inch screen into the dashboard here, and Dave actually remarked about how much he likes the fact that it's got all the essentials on here without, you know, dominating your driving experience or making the screen the focal point of everything inside this car. What I also particularly like is the fact that it's just that little bit Porsche in its little intricacies, because look at this warning. It says here passenger door ajar. I mean, you know, was this designed in England or something? Even if it was, that's pretty cool. Another thing that's quite cool is the fact that your speedometer here, it actually says ground speed over there. So as opposed to if you were flying and it might say air speed, I guess. But another little cool thing about this Mustang, you've also got the speed limit there, your gear along the side there, and then a sort of icon of your Mustang Mach-E there in its surroundings, which it would tell you if there was anything, you know, around that was going to compromise your safety. On the left side, you've got your range and your charge meter, and then of course whether you're sort of what level of regen braking you're on, and then on the bottom you've got the vitals and whether your parking brake is engaged and all that stuff. Now you will notice this little black bar over here, and that's actually the monitor that measures the driver's alertness level. So if I was to sleep, it would, you know, do something with the car, maybe take off, I guess. But yeah, that's Ford just taking care of your safety in a way that's not too, you know, jarring in terms of your visual experience. Taking a step back and looking at the steering, you've obviously got your Mustang logo over there. I actually don't think I've seen a single Ford logo anywhere. It's just Mustang emblems, of course, because after, you know, 50 something years, this is a very recognizable logo. On both sides of the steering wheel here, you've got buttons. You've got, in particular on the left, your adaptive cruise control, and then on the right, your audio and phone connectivity button. So they have thought about how to make this car easy to live with, as well as that sporty sort of character. Now, in the back of this Mustang Mach-E GT, well, space is really good, despite the fact that you notice on the exterior that sloping roofline. The interesting thing with the design is actually it starts sloping behind the headrest of the backseat passengers. So although it might look different from the outside, that's how the design really is, and that's just Ford's ingenuity there. Because I mean, I'm just under 6 foot, and if I sit bolt upright, I've got plenty of knee room there, plenty of foot room, and then just look at that headroom. Despite the fact that yes, the roofline slopes a bit and you've got that massive panorama sunroof, you've still got plenty of headroom for a person who's 6 feet or even slightly taller. Now, seating at the back here, you could easily get 2 adults and a third one at a slight stretch. But if you don't want the third person, you've got your armrest here with the dual cup holders. And if I pop that back up, there's enough of space here to have your charging cables running for your devices on either side, of which there are 2 USB ports, so 1C, 1A once again, and you've got 2 air vents there, but there is no separate climate control or heated seats for the passengers back here. Now, enough of all the luxuries and the bits and pieces. This is the Mach-E GT. This is the performance model. So I think the right thing to do at this point is take it for a drive. Now, I've got to be honest, I feel like out of the 2 of us, I'm the older one in the sense that, yes, I've got bad joints, but also the fact that I think a Mustang should be V8 powered and, you know, a sort of coupe sort of thing. So for me, I'm a bit unsure about this Mach-E, to be honest. So
I think you're wrong, and I think I'll try to prove it, because especially when you think your V8's around about 5 seconds 0 to 100, this is faster. How's that for 3.7 seconds 0 to 100?
all right.
It's just super fast off the line, and honestly, this feels like a Mustang should.
I think that's taking the stuffing out of me for now, but yeah, I've got to say Dave's right. You know, it is an electric car, it is an SUV as well. Both of those things are undeniable, but there is, just like any Mustang, that aspect of fun to it that I think comes with that, you know, that particular badge. And speaking of which, before Dave chimes in, I'm going to go on a little bit of a history lesson here.
Sitting comfortably.
So the Mustang name actually comes from those World War II fighter planes Mustangs, as opposed to the horse. And in 1964, when Lee Iacocca actually designed the Mustang, there were 3 names being pitched. There was the Cougar, there was the Torino, and Henry Ford II actually wanted the Thunderbird too. But somebody snuck in, I can't remember whose name it was, but he is credited with the Mustang name. He snuck it into the ballot, and guess what? 50 something years later, that Mustang name is still going, and it's the longest running Ford nameplate out there, and for good reason, I think.
Speaking of the longest running, is anyone still here? But it is a name that's just gone on for a long time, and actually songs have been written about it. But the issue is, with a V8 heart and things like that, it's becoming more of a dinosaur. Yet this electric-hearted Mustang is really out there to make sure that the name continues, because, you know, realistically, it's going to be harder and harder for people to have a V8, and you might as well have something that's faster than a V8 and also still holds the Mustang name.
Well, in a way, you know, Dave is right, because I remember when Ford initially announced this car that people were all, it can't be a Mustang, it's going to have a V8. But now that it has been launched and has hit the market, the waiting time in the US actually for one of these is something like 6 months. So that just tells you how popular it's been. And then the other thing that has been found is that buyers of this car are actually Mustang owners, you know, because that badge is like a religion, that people, given the opportunity, would have a Mustang branded daily driver as well as a V8 sports car for the weekends. And that's exactly what's happened, is you have existing Mustang owners actually having two Mustangs, you know, one with a V8 for their fun drives, and then one with electric power like this for their everyday sort of commutes and stuff like that. So very, you know, interesting changes in terms of what we might have thought would happen when something like this hit the market with a Mustang name.
But actually, what you say about fun drive, this is still a really, really fun drive. What they've done is they've given it a lot of rear bias. So when you are in corners and looking to put some power down, you actually do kick out the tail end. Like that. It's just so much fun, but so controllable.
And speaking of which, it has got dual motor, so that means four-wheel drive. So if you are, you know, by any chance headed towards a crowd, you've always got that grip to steer away.
You have. On the fact of how this car drives, the visibility, apart from the rear, is actually very good. And when you do talk about the rear glass, you still have the reversing cameras, as they've just popped up. And on the matter of glass, this is actually like an acoustic glass in here, so it does make the cabin very, very quiet.
It actually is called a sound screen, and that's a registered trademark, so it keeps it quiet. In fact, we're on what I called earlier, sorry excuse for a road, and this thing is just so silent and quite comfortable actually, because that magnetic suspension adjusts 1,000 times a minute. That's a lot by anybody's books.
1,000 times a second, I would say.
1,000 times a second. My maths have just gone out the window with this car, but that just means that the ride is comfortable even on a road like this. And going back to the visibility, what Dave pointed out, I have got to remark that this car has got the world's smallest quarter glasses at the back over there. But again, all of that stuff is part of, I feel like, the Mustang's character. That sort of ability to be quick, to be menacing, but also to be able to have a laugh at itself.
It is. It's probably one of the most engaging electric vehicles out there right now. It's a vehicle that does want you to play and have fun, and I have taken this on the track, and hopefully you guys have seen some of the video on it, but it's just a fun vehicle that wants to but actually keep you quite safe as well. The tech on it, the drive on it, the fact that it wants to kick its rear end out is just so funny.
Absolutely. I mean, we've been in a lot of electric cars over the years now, and I don't think I've seen anything quite like this in its fun aspect. Its ability to kick its rear end out, its ability to take off the line, you know. There's nothing quite like this Mustang Mach-E GT, I've got to say.
So there you have it, the new Mustang. Well, it's not so new anymore, but the Mustang Mach-E GT. It is just a way to make sure that the Mustang name lives on forever. And honestly, my heart rate is increased because it is such an animal of a vehicle to drive. It may not be named after a horse, but it certainly is a pilot of a vehicle.
My heart rate is higher anyway because Dave's behind the wheel, but when he gets behind the wheel of a Mustang, even more so. And I've got to say that, I said it before, but I'll say it again, there's nothing quite like this Mustang Mach-E GT out there.
Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.